using the platform of veganism as the basis for not just my book, but the second book that I'm now writing. So without boring you too much, I just want to start with the fact that I grew up in a family of 5 children. My mother, for lack of not wanting to cook a lot, we had probably every known easy, convenient food you could ask for. Mrs. Paul's fish sticks, Swanson's turkey, chicken, and vegetable pot pies, hot dogs, hamburgers. We would get a T-bone steak once a week, and we would fight over the bone. And didn't think anything of going to Marineland, watching the orcas splash everybody. It was very exciting, going to the zoo. Rodeo wasn't too crazy about. My sister Joanne is right there. And I don't know if you remember this, but the only thing I remember about the rodeo was a clown was attacked by one of the bulls. And I just remember seeing the ambulance come and take him away. That's all I remember, which I guess is good. So when I first discovered, I would say, animal rights, it was when a friend of mine was telling me how some, and I don't know if at the time it was always like this, but motorcycle helmets. They were testing motorcycle helmets for their durability, and they used dogs. So they would put the helmet on the dogs, and they would beat the dogs over the head. And I thought she was talking about another planet. There's no way we would be doing this. And my curiosity brought me to PETA, and PETA, as a gift, sent me the book Animal Liberation by Peter Singer. And I don't know if any of you've read the book. Well, it didn't completely turn my world around. What it did was it introduced me to, since time memoriam, animals in entertainment. Back in the Colosseum, they used to chain bears and tigers together and watch them fight to the death. Animals in experimentation. I believe he talked about animals, food animals, but I don't remember it that much. It wasn't until I read Diet for a New America by John Robbins that really opened my eyes. And that's when the door couldn't close. You know, the door closed a couple of times. I didn't want to think about it. I loved my meat. I loved my dairy. I loved leather. I just really didn't want to know. But that book wouldn't let me forget. So that really opened my eyes, and I wanted so badly to do something for the animals. But I'm not a confrontational person. I went to a protest when I was early teens. It was in front of a Ford Motor Company in the San Fernando Valley. My best friend at the time, she and her mother, asked me to go to a protest because Ford Motor Company was using dogs, again dogs, using dogs in their crash tests. They'd strap them on and then they'd crash the car and figure out what the damage was. So I protested. And I had my sign, and I wasn't comfortable doing it. And I know a lot of people aren't comfortable with protests. And one of the kids from school, Steve Hartunian, I remember his name, his dad was the manager of the Ford dealership. And so as we were rotating around and protesting on Ventura Boulevard, he grabbed my sign. Totally traumatized. Never wanted to protest again because I was being rejected and I was standing out. So I thought, what can I do to help the animals in my own way? And I don't know if anyone's heard of the term armchair activist. It's basically you're helping animals, or you're helping anything, whatever your cause is, but it's in a passive way. And that was right up my alley. So I started a business called The Right Cause, W-R-I-T-E. And I had it for 13 years. And The Right Cause was a letter writing service. And what I wanted to do, at the time, there was no internet. All the letters, if you wanted to write letters in protest, you had to belong to an organization. I belonged to PETA. And every month they sent me their it was a newsletter, kind of like a magazine, and they had the issue, how to write the letter, and then who to write to. So I used PETA, I think I used HSUS, whoever I could join, whatever organization I could join, I would get their information, and I would write these letters for other people. So at one point I had a membership of about 300. And it was great. I felt like I was really making a difference. I was helping people that normally wouldn't write letters, get their letters out, get their name out. And that lasted, like I said, 13 years. And then at the time I got divorced and my world really shrunk. I had a son and I was working at home. I went to the post office, the printer, and the store. And I needed more stimulation. So I sold the business and I embarked doing sales and almost pushed away my animal rights activism. But in the meantime, I started writing screenplays. And every protagonist was an animal rights person or a vegetarian. At the time, I was a strict vegetarian. And I want to mention that because for 23 years, it was still hard for me to completely give up dairy. I still did, and if someone said, oh, I have farm free-range eggs in my, whatever they made, a cake or banana bread or whatever, will you eat it? And I said, oh, well, if it's free-range, sure, I'll eat it. And I avoided any articles about free-range, because usually it would say, is free range really good? It's like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I already gave up meat. I didn't wear any animal products. And I'm sure a lot of people can identify that I just didn't want to cut it out yet. And so I started writing screenplays. Well, living in Petaluma and writing screenplays, you're not going to meet Steven Spielberg or anybody, producer, agent, nothing. I thought maybe I had ties to LA because I grew up in LA, but those ties were nowhere to be found when I wanted to promote my work. So I wrote 4 screenplays, and I said, you know what, that's it. I'm not writing screenplays anymore. In the meantime, I did start a Vegetarianism Made Easy class with a friend. She was vegan, I was still strict vegetarian, and we went through the Department of Parks and Rec, and it was a 3-hour class, and we talked about factory farming, and Joanne was there. She's always here. My rock. And we served a vegan meal and had Diet for New America, Animal Liberation, a lot of books for sale. And that went well for about a year. It was tough getting people, and this was probably, I'm going to say, 20 years ago. And even the word vegan, when people said, oh, I thought you were a vegan. No, not a vegan. No, from time to time I'll eat cheese or milk. Now it's a lot different, I think. I mean, veganism has come such a long, long way. So why did I become vegan? It was around 4.5 years ago, and I started reading those articles on what is really free range, and the free range chicken. By the way, Rocky, is everyone familiar with Rocky the range chicken? Well, when I first after I read Diet for New America, I thought, well, I can eat Rocky. He's a range chicken. He runs around. I didn't think about the slaughterhouse. He runs around, and then when his time's up, they take away his top hat and his cane, and they send him off to the slaughterhouse. And I went out with somebody, and this guy happened to say, you know, Rocky the range chicken. I said, oh yeah, I get Rocky the range chicken. He says, well, my cousin started Rocky the range chicken. He said, do you know how much room a range chicken has? I said, well, they're in the, shows the picture of Rocky in the range. 12 inches. 12 square inches is a range chicken. And free range eggs, they're all still in a shed, about 10 times the size of this, and there's a little door in the back. And if the chickens can see it, they can go out, but they have to come, they close it in the evening. And most of them don't even see it, so they don't go out. So that's free-range eggs, that's free-range chicken. So it's basically a very successful marketing ploy until you take the time to read it. So it was at that point that I thought, I really don't want cheese anymore. I don't care about dairy anymore. Oh, and I also read about dairy, the dairy industry, which, yes, I knew veal calves are a product of the dairy industry, but I had no idea that the dairy industry is probably one of the worst industries, which I won't get into because that wasn't my talk. But if you want to know, I can tell you all about it. Oh, that's enough. So it was at that point I was in a writing group, and I was done with my screenplay. I said, you know what, I'm done. I'm not sure what I'll do, but I'm basically done. And the moderator of the group said, please don't leave the group. She said, do something. You can write short stories. You can do something. I thought, well, I've had this idea. I've always had this hankering for a vegan cowboy. When I moved to Petaluma 26 years ago, I could get about 3 stations, believe it or not. Maybe it was my car radio. And 2 of the stations were country. And I always liked country, but, and then I really got into it because it was 2 out of the 3 stations. So I embraced the whole country. Okay, I didn't embrace the whole country. I embraced the look. I didn't embrace the food or the rodeo or any of that, because at that point I was vegetarian. I was vegetarian. So that was my focus. I thought, well, if I meet a vegan cowboy, that would really be cool. So that's when I started the book. But when I was in this class, we met the 1st and 3rd Thursdays of every month. And I could read every other month because there were other people in the class. So when did I write my 15 pages for people to read? Like 2 nights before. So I wasn't really that serious. I wasn't disciplined. I didn't really like it, to tell you the truth. I like writing screenplays. And if anyone's tried to write a book, maybe they've had a great experience with it. I just didn't. I didn't have the focus. So I started writing Vegan Cowboy, and about 6 months later, I got a full-time job working at Veg News magazine, which a lot of people must be familiar with. And I had to quit the group, and when I quit the group, I quit writing Vegan Cowboy. I had my routine. I would do my yoga, I would eat dinner, and then I would watch TV for about 3.5, 4 hours. And if it was a rerun of Big Bang Theory, I'd watch it. And if it was a rerun of Seinfeld, I'd watch it. And anything to avoid writing. And then it hit me. Thought, I am doing nothing for the animals. Nothing. And I really want to. So I went online and I looked up how to write a novel. And of course, tons of books on how to write a novel. So I looked through them, and one book really caught my eye. It's called The 90-Day Novel by Alan Watt. W-A-T-T. Everyone says, oh, Alan Watts. I think he's an activist. No. His name is Alan Watt. He has a lab in LA, a writer's lab. And I downloaded the book, and he maps out every single day, from day 1 to 90. I thought, 3 months? If I cannot discipline myself for 3 months, there's something really wrong with me. There is, but that's beside the point. That's another discussion. So when I bought the book, I thought, okay, I can do this. I don't have to watch Entertainment Tonight and for the 4th time, The Big Bang Theory. I can do this. And it was the first 2 months are about 3 hours a day. And it really, okay, I'm not going to say it was easy, and I'm not going to say I enjoyed it. It was really tough. Because after writing screenplays, it's all dialogue. You of course you set up the scene, there could be a lot of action, but it's dialogue. So you have 120 pages, each page is a minute basically, so it's 120 minutes, 2-hour movie. And people would say, why did you write a book? It's like, I don't want to write a book. I read books, and every time I finish a book, I think, how did they do that? It's just astounding to me. So, well, I'm going to be one of those people. So I stuck with it, and after 30, 40, 50 days, I had my first draft. And then Alan Watt beautifully wrote a second book called The 90-Day Rewrite. So I downloaded that one, and I started to rewrite, and that was also very tough. It was not fun. I'm just going to say right now, I really enjoyed the process, the creative process. That was wonderful because, and if anyone is interested in writing, what I loved to do is if I was doing something and a great idea or a wonderful quote that I could give my protagonist came to me, I would just write it down on a piece of paper or whatever, and then I'd put it in my file. That I loved. The creative process was really fun. Actually, writing was not that much fun because you're supposed to write 750 to 1,000 words a day, and at a time. And that was, so I think it's about 3 pages in a book. So when I was finally finished, it was a little over 200 pages, and then the rewrite began, and that's when I really fleshed it out. So when I finished, I thought what I had was a horrible story. I was so entwined with the characters that I just thought, I don't want to see these people anymore. I like them, but I just didn't want to read it again. And every time the proof came back, I was like, oh God, I have to read it because people would say, you know, you're gonna have errors. And I self-published. So I called everybody, I called my sister, and I said, will you please read this for me? And if you could do it in about a week, I'd really appreciate it, because if you don't like it, I'm not going to publish it. I'm not spending the time and the energy to publish it. And I know my sister Joanne would be very honest with me. So I gave it to her, and I held my breath for a week, and when it was, and every once in a while she'd say, oh, this is good, I like this, oh, I enjoy this, I like this character. So when it was over, when she finished, she said she loved it. And it just totally buoyed my spirits, because honestly, I wasn't going to pursue it. But the whole underlying feeling, which I'm sure being at the Veg Fest you understand, is I wanted to do it for the animals. I wanted people, omnivores, vegetarians, vegans, hardcore carnivores, I wanted them to read the book because it's a novel, and there are so many nonfiction, amazing nonfiction books about how to be a vegan, how to stay a vegan, 30 days to being a vegan, you know, the environmental aspects of not being a vegan. And like I said, some of them are fantastic, but there are very few novels, just fiction about, this is a love story. It's not a romance novel. It's a love story. You don't see Fabio on the cover. And I wanted the characters to educate the reader. And so I interspersed factory farming facts and just realistic sanctuaries, because it's basically about a third-generation cattle rancher who decides to become vegan, and he turns his ranch into an animal sanctuary. And of course, his 500 head of cattle are the first residents, and he builds the stables, and then he gets rescue horses. And I don't know if anyone's familiar with Petaluma, but we have a slaughterhouse there. We have a chickens, Petaluma Poultry Processors slaughterhouse. We have an auction yard there. And Petaluma was the egg basket of the world. That's what they called it. And at the end of World War II, they brought a lot of the Holocaust victims or survivors, to Petaluma. That was one of the towns. And they were chicken farmers. So they had the regular sheds. And then, of course, that gave way with all the demand for chicken meat and eggs. That's when they started creating factory farming. So we have Uncle Eddie's and Aunt Judy's, that they have pictures of little girls with bonnets picking eggs up off the ground. And they are sheds. They're free range, but like I said, there's a little teeny window. And I want to get into the horrors of the industry, but I won't go there. Needless to say, when I first started writing, a lot of the advice is write about what you know. So I know Petaluma very well. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna create a story in Petaluma, outlying area, San Francisco. And I've been involved in animal rights, and for 13 years writing these letters, I learned a lot about everything, animals and entertainment and forest deforestation due to animal agriculture. So I wrote about what I knew. I do not know a vegan cowboy. I may someday.
What about Howard Lyman?
He is. He's the mad cowboy, and now he's the vegan cowboy.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's another. I think he's back east. His name is Harold Brown, and he's in. Yeah, and he's back east.
He's in the movie. Harold Brown is in the movie.
Peaceable King.
Oh, really?
Peaceable Kingdom,
Okay.
which you would really love, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I even contacted him. I wanted to send him a book.
He might be your cowboy.
Well, never heard back from him.
Oh.
He's often a speaker here at the World Veg Festival.
Oh, really?
Howard Lyman, yeah.
Oh, Howard Lyman is?
But she's talking about
Harold
Brown.
Harold Brown. Yeah, Harold Brown. And I believe there's one other vegan cowboy. But not where I live. I am not willing to relocate.
Petaluma was not named after PETA.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Actually, it's an Indian name. It's named after the Miwok Indians lived there. I don't think that now there's just the gambling casinos. No more Miwoks. So anyway, that's the story about the book. And I wanted to I'll read the first chapter. And then what I wanted to do is, since my journey from being a pretty hardcore meat eater to vegan was a very long journey. I think it's been total 26 years, vegetarian and vegan. There are a lot of people that may not want to take that step. First of all, that's probably one of the best things you can do for the animals, is not eat them and dairy. But there's so many other things you can do. Very small, baby steps to opening up your animal sanctuary, which anything is possible. So after I read the chapter, what I wanted to do is give you all ideas on how you can help the animals. As an armchair activist, if that's your thing, or if you like holding a sign and screaming in front of a slaughterhouse, which is not my thing. Yes?
I'm sorry I was a little late, but when did you publish this, and how are you going to move it into bookstores?
Well, I published through CreateSpace, which is Amazon, in June. And it's also on Kindle. The only stores that the only bookstores I've been able to get it into are my local Copperfield's books. Are you familiar with Copperfield's, anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
okay. Copperfield's there are 7 locations. There's, one's in Napa County, 2 are in Napa County, 1 is in Marin, and the rest are in Sonoma County. They will help out local authors.
And how much are you selling it for here?
$15. Yeah, it's $14.95 on Amazon.
Yeah, you can self-publish it yourself on the Apple App Store.
On the Apple Store?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I did it through CreateSpace, and I think because I have it through them, I don't know if I can use any other publishers. But that's good to know. CreateSpace, the reason I did it through CreateSpace is a couple of friends of mine said that they give authors probably the best royalties. So that's why I went with them. And then Copperfield's Books has something called a meet and greet. And it's a very simple 2-hour, Joanne will know, she's been with me. Come on up here, Joanne. So for 2 hours, you can sit at a little table as people walk into the Copperfield stores, and you can sell your books, and you can sign them and sell them. They will not give you readings, because that's for published authors. I mean, publishing house authors, not self-published authors, unless the book went crazy and then they realized that they could profit from it as well. And that was pretty tough, because I really thought the name would grab people, and it has and it hasn't. It's kind of a double-edged sword, because people see vegan, and half my friends haven't bought the book because I don't think they want to read about a vegan book.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wouldn't put the word vegan in the title.
And too late.
Something else.
Next book will not have the word vegan.
Because you know, Skinny Bitch was so popular.
Yes.
And it didn't have the word vegan.
Well, you know, I heard Skinny Bitch was very popular. For a year it was not. They could not get it off the ground. And then somebody took a picture of Victoria Beckham reading Skinny Bitch. And that's what it was.
So you're stalking celebrities now?
Yes, I am stalking. If anyone knows a vegan celebrity, I've probably sent the book to almost every vegan and vegetarian celebrity.
Even on the liberal website, salon.com, they dismissed Skinny Bitch as, didn't really dismiss, but they just kind of voted off saying that as a thinly disguised vegan manifesto.
Oh,
So I commented, what's wrong with the vegan manifesto?
Yeah, what's wrong with it?
Yeah.
So anyway, I've been doing that. I've been on a couple of 3 radio programs. This was a total fluke. I had asked the San Francisco Vegetarian Society if I could do a reading at one of their potlucks, and never got a call back. So I called again, and I got a call back, and she said, would you like to talk at the Veg Fest? I'm like, yeah. And then I got off the phone, what am I going to talk about? So I didn't sleep that night, trying to figure out how to fill up an hour, and then I realized, it's not a full hour. Hope you all agree. It's not that horrible. And then I needed to figure out what I was going to talk about. And I knew obviously I want to talk about the book. But that was when I thought it would really be nice for people who are not sure where to start to help and just get the dialogue going. And I don't have a sheet that has these, I think there are 32 different ideas. But I do have a little sign-up sheet, and if you want to give me your email address, I will put it in a PDF and I can email it to you. So you have it all.
You posted on your blog too?
Yes, thank you, Susan. I just guessed your name.
Psychic vegan.
I'm a psychic vegan cowgirl.
That's a different story.
Yeah, that's another story. And what I will say before I start is the other reason I wrote this. A lot of women, of course, don't like to tell you their age, but because I wrote this at 58, and I'll be 60 next year, I'm proud to say I'm going to be 60 next year, and I wrote a book. And whether it doesn't lead, I sell 10 or 10,000, the fact that I was able to sit down and write a book that was 278 pages was a huge accomplishment. And I used time that I wasted to do something that to me is really important. If one person reads the book and says, you know what, I'm not gonna, I think I'll try being a vegan, mission accomplished. Sure beats watching another episode of Big Bang Theory. Which I've seen all of them about 3 times a day. So the story is also about a woman who is in her late 50s and is going through a stage where she's happy being single. She's raising her son, and I have a son. So the boy in the book is very much fashioned after my son. I dedicated it to Charlie. And I really gave him a lot more credit in the book than what he was like, because if he actually ever read the book, he probably would never talk to me again. But he will not read the book because he hates reading. So I'm safe. And his father hopefully will never pick up the book either.
How old is your son?
I have to get a bodyguard.
How old is your son?
He's going to be 24.
The reason I ask is because I'm curious, because the internet has kind of made us all lazy when it comes to reading and writing and so forth. My own penmanship has gotten shoddy because I don't write things down anymore. We type in everything on keyboards nowadays.
And it corrects us too.
Yeah.
Well, not all the time. I mean, there's some errors in here, and that's the thing about if you do decide to self-publish, I highly recommend, even though it can be expensive, to get a copy editor and get a proofreader. I've read this book 4 or 5 times, and there's still mistakes, and it just happens. Because when you write something, you don't completely read it word for word. I wrote it, so I assume I know it, and you just pass over certain words, and I have found mistakes. And after the 3rd proof, I found a mistake, and I basically said, I don't care. I want to publish this book, and I want it out, and I wanted it out in February, and it published in June, and the second one will be hopefully error-free. Okay, so here we go. And I'm just going to, you're killing me. It was another disappointing day, like the one before and the one before that, which was almost a year ago. Few and far between, from bad to worse. Ray O'Brien approached the dating scene with an objective eye, not a critical one, but she was let down every time. Her son Carson said she was too picky, but that wasn't it. She was sizing up her dates with her gut reaction. So far, her gut needed bicarbonate. When Ray was younger, the cavalcade of subpar suitors would have had her on the phone for hours with friends, thoroughly dissecting the dates with the precision of a medical examiner. But now they're laughed off and checked off as another dud on a mental chalkboard. At 58 years old, Ray was more than happy to spend her life without a partner. Her 90-year-old father stopped asking Ray if she was dating anyone 6 years ago. She wasn't sure if it wasn't important to him anymore, he didn't care, or he forgot that she was single. If her mother was alive, she would have given Ray a pitied look. I tried my best to convince you that getting married and having children was the only road to take look. Even if that highway was covered in glass shards, thistles, and an occasional tulip. Ray did turn onto that thoroughfare twice, hands firmly gripping the steering wheel. She followed the map to the letter, driving the first 5.5 miles with Eric O'Brien. Husband number 1 was whip smart, handsome, charming, and exceptionally witty. Funny was his second language. Alcohol was his first, and he was fluent in cocaine. Ray divorced him when she realized she would always take a back seat to his addictions. Despite objections from her therapist, Ray plunged headfirst into a serious relationship with Stuart Tenman only 3 months after leaving Eric. Her heart was aching. She erroneously believed that giving it away instead of holding on to it and nurturing it was the right thing to do. And it made her parents happy. After all, she was entering her 30s, newly single and childless. Stuart was a good man, responsible and financially stable. But too many critical differences in their personalities turned a seemingly decent marriage into an intolerable one. It wasn't until their son Carson was 6 years old that Ray's desire to be happy won over her need for financial security. Ray was 42 when she embarked on her life as a single mother. Convinced she would meet her life partner, she signed up for nearly every online dating service that coursed through the internet. KissMe.com, GreenSingles.com, Match.com, VeggiePeople.com, even ConsciousSingles.com, as opposed to unconscious singles. Despite the seemingly endless line of men, Ray never came close to getting married. Carson was peripherally responsible, as his tendency toward amazingly obnoxious behavior wasn't tolerated well, as Joanne knows, especially with men who didn't have children of their own. He could scare a date away with his persistent whining and constant motion in record time. Dates and short-term relationships piled up like so many dirty clothes waiting to be washed. Ray's undying belief that Mr. Right was right around the corner devolved into a comfortable life of living free from compromise. Instead of reaching for a lover's hand to hold, Ray held Pierre, her adopted tuxedo cat. Changing the litter box became preferable to changing the position of the toilet seat from up to down. Ray didn't even miss having sex. If the need struck, though, a warm male body was easily replaced with a silicone faux body part. Ray glanced at her watch. It was 8:45 in the morning. She had plenty of time to walk to work. It was only a mile away, and on a day this beautiful, it would have been a crime not to exercise and take in the morning air before getting stuck in a stuffy office for 8 hours. She crossed Bodega Avenue, one of the major arteries in Petaluma, to Baker Street. Every time she looked at that street sign, she heard the iconic song by Jerry Rafferty, "Winding your way down Baker Street, light in your head and dead on your feet." She could almost hear the inimitable saxophone solo. She made a mental note to find the song on YouTube, knowing full well that her mind could never retain a task to be performed later in the day or even early evening. So she made a mental note to put a notepad and pen in her purse for moments like this. She hoped she'd remember. Ray walked at a fast clip. She was used to it because past boyfriends and husbands were always at least 10 inches taller than her, and her 5'1" 1¼ frame had to keep up. Most of the men preferred to walk ahead of her rather than slow their pace. Their rude behavior gave birth to her quick stride. Along with Kundalini Yoga, it helped keep her in decent shape. So for their lack of decency, she was thankful. Ray did not like her job. It was not fulfilling or interesting. It wasn't a bustling office where she could engage in lively conversation or a small office with a tight-knit staff. She worked with one person, the owner. In 3 years, Ray had yet to receive a bonus or a raise. She had no one to blame for the situation but herself because she was too damn lazy to find a place of employment that she might actually enjoy. And at this point in her life, Ray wasn't sure what occupation would ideally suit her. She would mentally throw out ideas like clay pigeons and expertly shoot them down. Even her keen interest in the animal rights movement couldn't propel her into volunteering at the local animal shelter or a regional activist group. She preferred having her free time unencumbered by obligations. As a result, her inner tyrant was merciless, chiding her for being lazy, apathetic, and selfish. Donations to animal rights groups didn't count. Ray blamed menopause for shirking her duties as an able-bodied citizen, but her inner critic, who she aptly named Cruella, didn't buy it. Someday, Ray knew she would grow tired of the verbal lashings and heed Cruella's urgings, but not now. The pall she felt overshadowed any passion she had for helping the animals, except for her vegan lifestyle, which she embraced fervently. Ray finally arrived at the offices of Moore & Company, a financial service business. She audibly sighed as she opened the doors to the nondescript building, walked up 3 flights of stairs, and reluctantly entered Suite 302. If it weren't for bad interior design, there'd be no design at all. The furniture was mismatched. An ancient light blue and purple striped love seat sat opposite 2 dark red leather swivel chairs. A rattan coffee table displayed copies of Financial Times next to a bouquet of artificial blue roses covered in a thin veil of spider webs. Framed prints dotted the walls indiscriminately. There was no symmetry to them at all. A black and white photo of Yosemite was separated from a starving artist's oil painting of a still life by fake Tiffany Walsconce. Below it was an unframed, oversized, sun-faded print of lilies in a vase. The dark gray carpet was stained, and one wall was painted Kelly green. When Ray was the first to arrive, she turned on the lights, prepared the coffee, and opened the blinds for the 6 floor-to-ceiling windows behind her desk and the desk of her boss, Zoe Moore. The outdoor light flooded the large room, and the view of the Petaluma River was spectacular. Both women preferred the natural light to the overhead fluorescent ones. But for reasons unknown to Ray, when Zoe arrived first, she would turn on the lights, make the coffee, and open the blind to the 3 windows behind her desk. She had no reason not to open the 3 windows behind her desk, behind Ray's desk, other than to assert her authority. At least that's what Ray believed. Avoiding confrontation at all costs, Ray never wanted to ask Zoe why she only tended to her own blinds. But one day, as she opened the window covering, she said jokingly, "Hey, I like my blinds open too." Zoe didn't respond, a silence to which Ray was all too familiar. Today, Zoe was at her desk, and as expected, Ray's blinds were shut. The contrast of Zoe's desk, bathed in sunlight, to Ray's dark, cellar-like work area was apparent. The irony wasn't lost on Ray. Her anger started to rise. Then she felt childish for being so upset. With grave injustices happening every second of every day, most people in crisis would welcome closed blinds over starvation, chronic pain, and disease. Zoe grunted hello, barely looking up from her computer. Ray returned the salutation and then opened up her blinds, causing them to slap together. The cracking sound barely registered with her boss. Ray sat down at her desk and turned on the computer. She watched the screen come to life. The Moore and Company logo as wallpaper stared back at her, just as dull and boring as the rest of the business. The thought of spending another day surrounded by financial reports, investment portfolios, and securities made her want to tear out of the office and never look back. But that wasn't possible, at least not in Ray's world, where a mortgage payment patiently waited for her every month, as did the other bills for amenities that she kept her comfortable, like running water, electricity, and food. So that's just part of it. Before I get into the many, many ways we can help the animals, are there any questions? Anybody?
I just wanted to comment that one of the fiction books that really touched me, and I read quite a few years ago, was My Year of Meats by Ruth Ozeki.
My Year of Meats? Is that what
Nobody read that? Oh, you're
Never heard
missing
of it.
something. It's totally fiction,
Uh-huh.
and it's very meaty. Very, very negative about the meat.
Oh, interesting.
It's-
Okay, thank you.
Have you heard about the author, Ruth
No.
Ozeki?
No. Where have I been? I don't know.
Okay,
No, I've never heard
what
of it.
about your to-do list? To-read list. It's a beautiful book.
Okay, thank you. There was when I first posted my book on Facebook, there was a woman who had written a vegan book, a vegan was the protagonist, but it was a romance novel. And it was on Amazon, and of course you can read the first chapter for the most part on Amazon, and it was too romancy for me. I don't like romance novels, so I didn't, but and I know there are others, but thank you. So here's my thought. I'm just gonna mention this this one thing before I really get into all the ways that we can help the animals. And it's something that is so easy, and it's non-confrontational, and anyone can do it. And it sounds ridiculous, but if you go to restaurants where they have straws, they serve their drinks in straws, with straws, ask them not to. Ask them not to. I don't know why you need a straw at a restaurant to drink water or even soda. Every day, humans produce and utilize 500,000 straws. I mean, you don't think of a straw as being making such a huge impact on our environment, but it does. And in the last 25 years, over 6 million straws and stirrers were removed from beaches during annual cleaning events. That's just on the beach. So at a very minor level, ask the manager, follow up with a card or a letter or a phone call, and just ask them not to use straws. Very small, could make a big difference. Now, what I wanted to do, I know a lot of people, and there are more people here than I really didn't expect anybody to show up except my friends. So thank you for coming. But I know that a lot of people think that in order to write a letter, you have to be a good letter writer. And to me, that's a total fallacy. It is so easy, and because I wrote for 13 years, basically what I did, because I was writing 6 letters at a time per issue, 5 issues. So I was writing 30 letters a month. And my formula was, first of all, you never diss the people who are writing, no matter how much you hate them, because they will not listen. You know, if it's a lab, vivisectionist, and they're dissecting animals and you don't call them horrible things, because they will not listen to you. So that's number 1. Number 2, usually if there's an issue online, they will give you the points that you need to write the letter, or even a postcard about. All you have to write, I urge you to, if it's your congressman, I urge you to pass SB 123. It'll protect the wolves in Idaho. We need the wolves for our ecosystem. Thank you so much for your consideration, sincerely. That's it. They don't want to read a big letter anyway. So what I did is I brought some postcards. Let's see how many people. 1, 2, 3. Okay, not too bad. I brought some postcards, and I have 3 issues that we can write letters on. And I brought stamps. So all you have to do is either send them out yourself, or give them to me and I'll mail them. I mean, I'm making it really easy. And if you can share with somebody next to you, that would be great.
Yes, I guess I could share.
Well, you guys want to share?
Yeah.
Oh, you. So I have some left.
Carol, yeah, I know you work for PETA. Can any of us go to PETA and say, well, we want to help with our letters? Or did you do it because you had a business?
No, what I did, I have one extra. Does anyone need? Oh wait, I need it. Never mind. When I said I did that, I got their newsletter or their magazine, and I used their issue to write my own. I don't even think PETA knew.
Okay.
Yeah, but nowadays, I mean, at the time when I created the Right Cause, there wasn't the internet. My computer, I used a computer, I don't know if anyone remembers, they were called, I think, 256 or 264s. That's how much memory they had. I couldn't even get all the letters on my memory. So I had to use literature from the animal rights groups. Now, you can sign up for petitions and letter writing, and they'll write the letters for you. All you have to do is sign them. So they make it very, very easy. So the first one is, I thought if people go to Trader Joe's, it would be a great letter or postcard. We'll do a postcard asking them to stop using so much plastic. They use a lot of plastic. And I know people have a petition about it. So if you want to, what I'll do is I'll take some of these. You can pass them around. Here. Take which one you want and pass them around.
She's going to use these beautiful.
Yes, I know.
Oh,
yeah,
so
yeah.
It's
The Georgia O'Keeffe ones, right?
Yeah.
Are you sure you want to give us those?
Oh, yeah, I know. I took the ones I liked. These are the ones I didn't like.
I promise.
Don't worry about it.
You see, we did this.
I planned this out. It's okay.
Was intentional.
It was intentional.
How many hours a day did you write when you were doing your novel?
I wrote, well, 750 to 1,000 words was it's about 2 hours, but keep in mind, every single little thing distracted me. So I'd sit down and I'd turn on my computer and I was ready to write and I was hungry. So I got up and I ate something and then I sat back down and I realized, oh, I didn't have my lip balm. So I got up and I got and then I realized I forgot my water. And then I had to check my emails. So I would actually be mid-sentence, writing a mid-sentence, and I would check my emails. It's amazing I wrote the book. It really is. Because, man, I don't have a really good attention span. Now, I'm using, because it's an oversized postcard, keep this in mind if you end up doing this on your own. Oversized postcards are first-class stamp. Guess we gotta help out the post office.
Do you think that they appreciate paper more than
Yes,
digital
I
emails?
do, yeah. I mean, I write them, I do emails, but yes, I think they really, when if there is an actual signature, I do. Stamp.
Want to just start writing your letter?
If you want, yes, if you want, you can. So what I've done is, I've basically given you bullet points. So you can't write a lot on a postcard, right? But if you want, but the person that I found was Nicole High, the manager of customer relations. And for me, if you want, put your address somewhere on it. And I just bullet pointed 3 facts. The first one, of course, you request that you want them to stop using so much plastic in their produce. Did you get it? Are you not doing it?
I am, I'm just wondering if you.
Oh, okay. So who else needs a stamp?
We choose which one we want.
Yeah, we're gonna get together, we're talking,
We'll do it
about a party.
That's one of my suggestions.
Yeah.
You took one of my
I have a
suggestions.
question with that, if we have a party and we all go, do you think it would hurt if we put them all in the same envelope?
I think it should be separate.
It's better
Yeah, I
separate,
do.
separate.
You know,
Okay.
it's
Yeah,
what,
okay.
48
Stay on
cents.
stamp.
I think it's
Okay.
important. It's money well spent
Yeah.
because I think it's quantity.
Yes, and it's,
You know,
like-
and that's what I'm trying. Did you get it?
I got it.
Oh, yeah.
Carol, one thing I did in Redwood City, there was no animal rights group, so I started my own meetup group
Oh.
in January, and I
Okay.
now have 80 people in it.
80?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
people just join, I don't have even met most
Wow.
of them. And we don't do that many things, but mostly I post events that other groups are having. And I've shown Cowspiracy, but this is the kind of thing, people
Yeah.
can come over.
Oh, I think that was one of my suggestions. Who needs a pen? Pen? You need a stamp and a pen? Oh, okay. Does anyone else need a pen?
Are the postcards around somewhere?
Sue Johnson. They were just kind of sitting on my head. Oh, you got
I got it. Ran it the right side up.
And you didn't, oh, so everyone has a writing utensil and a postcard? Okay. So, like I said, I made it very, very easy. You can make it as simple as possible. And if you are a Trader Joe's customer, put that in there. I think that makes a big difference. I shop at Trader Joe's. It's very disturbing seeing so much plastic.
It is.
They have all these tote bags. It's very frustrating, and I know that petitions have been sent out for Trader Joe's, and I'm not sure why they're not changing, and a lot of people go there, so that's, so you have the address, so when everyone's done, let me know, and then I have, I don't know if I have enough paper and envelopes for both of these for everyone to write. So you can pick one. The wolf killing in Idaho or the experiments on infant monkeys. And if you have any questions while we're doing this, let me know.
That college is really bad, isn't it?
Hmm?
That college has a very bad reputation.
University of Wisconsin?
Yeah.
They all do.
They're the ones I think with the cat called Trouble or Double Trouble or something.
Yeah, UC Berkeley is really bad. I think their animal experimentation labs are underground. They have.
Stanford too, I think.
Stanford,
Yeah.
I think most universities have vivisectors because it's a huge profit center. Researchers are a huge profit center for universities because they get. I think this one is. Maybe I didn't put it. I think this researcher is paid like $80,000 a year to separate babies from their mothers. They've been doing this since like the 40s or 50s,
And they still didn't get the point that they were trying to
Yeah,
prove.
yeah, I know. It's
How long?
it's very frustrating, but it's the National Institutes of Health and it's our government and it perpetuates vivisections.
I'm sorry.
I started at 2:15, right? It's 3:12. Is it 3:12?
Good job.
You talked. How the hell did I do that? I stayed up nights, like scared to death. I'd be like, it's only 10 minutes. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna race through these ideas because I think they're really interesting. I think some of them are so good, and I got some of them from the Humane Society's website. HSUS, I'm not going to go into some of their politics, but they did have some excellent ideas. And what you can do is you can still keep those handouts and write to the other two if you are so inclined, because there are so many. I mean, I picked 3 out of thousands. I would have loved to do something on the wild horses. I don't know if people are aware that the Bureau of Land Management, which is a USDA arm, rounds up wild horses to the point that they now have more wild horses in captivity than are out on the plains. And they do it
For cattle grazing.
for cattle.
Yeah.
They do it for the ranchers.
There's a lot of Facebook posts.
A lot. I post a lot on that because the last roundup, I think 14 horses died. Babies. And the other. So that's one of the things I was going to say. So there are petitions all over the internet. 4 of the ones that I belong to are moveon.org, change.org, causes.org, and forcechange.com. So you can, like I said, if you want, you can either investigate on your own, or I'd be happy to send you a sheet of all this information. Then there are 2 sites that I found that you can click on every day. Greatergood.com has about 8 or 9 issues. There's animals, there's rainforests, there's diabetes, autism, veterans, food for the hungry. None of them, even the diabetes, because I asked, there's no animal testing, because I wasn't going to click on it. But all you do is you click on their little icons, and they donate money or food or whatever, shelter to animals. And the other one, and I bet some of you have heard of this, is Free Kibble, freekibble.com. It was started by a 12-year-old girl about 2 or 3 years ago. And every time you click, she has it's a multiple choice questions. Free kibble to cats, free kibble for dogs. And what she does is she'll have a question and it's a multiple choice answer, and it doesn't matter if you answer right or wrong. And a certain number of kibble, little dog and cat kibble, is donated to a shelter. She has donated millions of bags of dog food to shelters all over the country, and all you have to do is click there every day, freekibble.com. So writing petitions, signing petitions is one, but you can start your own petition. It's not hard. I think Move On and Change will, time. Is this room being used? Oh, there was no one after me.
Oh,
Yeah.
Next one, Katie, Zenko.
I'm going to question the projector in case.
Oh, okay. It wasn't on the schedule, sorry.
Well, that's
Yes, 3:30.
Oh, at 3:30, in this room, in the garden room? Oh, it's not up there, okay. All right, so anyway, I have 32 suggestions. If you want them, sign up on my, for my email, and I will send it to you. And the book is also for sale if you want. It's $15, includes a bookmark, and no tax.
Do you
So,
take credit cards or
I
ATMs?
don't.
Do you sell online?
yes.
Okay.
And thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it.